Imagine standing before a mirror, but instead of seeing yourself, you see a shadowy, haunting figure, a demonic version of you. Have you ever wondered, does evil think? Does it have its own philosophy? And if so, can we understand it, or even empathize with it? Today, we'll dive deep into the psychology of evil, not just as brutal acts, but as an ideology, a dark corner of the soul. From classical philosophy and modern psychology to villainous characters in film, we'll explore why evil is both captivating and terrifying. Evil isn't just a horned-tailed demon. Sometimes, it's a part of us all. Join us on this journey. But beware, when you gaze into the abyss gazes back. What is evil? This question has troubled philosophers for millennia. To understand the psychology of the devil, we begin with Plato, one of ancient Greece's greatest minds. Plato argued that evil isn't an independent entity but a product of ignorance. No one, he said, intentionally does evil. They act wrongly because they don't know what's right. Imagine a doctor prescribing the wrong medication due to lack of information, harming a patient. The act may have grave consequences, but it doesn't stem from malicious intent. For Plato, evil is like a computer program with a glitch, not destructive by design, but faulty due to missing data. Yet, if evil is merely ignorance, why do intelligent people, like leaders who cause disasters, still act wickedly? This question remains unanswered. Augustine, a 4th century Christian philosopher, offered a theological perspective. For him, evil has no essence of its own. It's like darkness, existing only in the absence of the light of goodness. According to Augustine, God created everything good, but when humans turn away from divine purpose, they create evil. Consider a politician lying to cover up a scandal. The lie isn't inherently evil, but reflects the absence of honesty. In the U.S. context, think of political scandals like Watergate, where wrongdoing stemmed not from overt malice but from a departure from moral values. Thomas Aquinas, a medieval philosopher, added that evil is a deviation from the natural purpose of humans and things. Take a car. It's designed to transport people safely, but if used to intentionally cause an accident, that's evil, as it contradicts its original purpose. Similarly, humans are created to live by reason and morality, but when driven by greed or violence, they produce evil. Consider U.S. school shootings, like Columbine in 1999, where young individuals acted against human nature, causing tragedy. For Aquinas, evil is a derailment from the right path. Classical philosophy views evil as a system error, ignorance, the absence of good, or deviation. But if evil is just a mistake, why do some people seem to choose it deliberately, even with joy? Historical figures like Charles Manson, who orchestrated brutal murders, seem not merely ignorant but driven by a warped philosophy. To dig deeper, we turn to existentialism, where evil is seen as a conscious choice. In the 19th and 20th centuries, existential philosophers offered a new view. Evil isn't just a mistake but a deliberate choice. Friedrich Nietzsche challenged traditional notions with his famous line, "Whoever fights monsters should see to it that he does not become a monster." For Nietzsche, evil isn't merely wrongdoing but an expression of the will to power, the drive to transcend limits. Consider Bernie Madoff, mastermind of the largest financial fraud in U.S. history. Madoff didn't act out of ignorance but to assert power and superiority. Nietzsche might argue that rigid moral rules sometimes stifle humans, leading to explosive acts of evil to assert themselves. Jean-Paul Sartre emphasized that humans are entirely free in their choices. No God or fate forces you to do evil. You choose it. Imagine a bank employee embezzling funds for a lavish lifestyle. They're not possessed, but freely decide to act, regardless of consequences. Sartre forces us to face personal responsibility. Evil is your creation. In the U.S., consider corporate frauds like Enron, where leaders chose wrongdoing to protect personal interests. Sartre would say they had the freedom to choose otherwise but didn't. Albert Camus viewed evil through the lens of absurdity. For Camus, life has no fixed meaning, and evil can be a response to this emptiness. In his novel The Stranger, Meursault kills without clear motive, driven by apathy toward life. Evil, in this case, becomes a way to assert existence, however misguided. Think of random acts of violence in the US, like school shootings, where perpetrators sometimes act without clear motives, lost in a meaningless world. Existentialism shows that evil isn't just a system error, but a choice. Sometimes philosophical, people may do evil to assert power, take responsibility for their freedom, or cope with life's absurdity. But what in the human psyche leads to this choice? To answer, we turn to psychology, where evil is explored as part of human nature. Carl Jung, one of the 20th century's greatest psychologists, introduced the concept of the shadow, the dark part of every psyche. The shadow encompasses instincts, desires, and aggression we suppress to fit into society. Picture it as a hidden basement in your mind, holding unacceptable thoughts, envy of a colleague, hatred for a rival, or selfish desires. Jung argued that denying the shadow makes it stronger, potentially controlling us, becoming the devil within. A classic example is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Dr. Jekyll, a respected scientist, suppresses his dark side, but when it emerges, Mr. Hyde, evil incarnate, becomes an uncontrollable monster. In pop culture, the Joker in The Dark Knight embodies a liberated shadow. He's the product of a man crushed by society, casting off moral limits to become chaos itself. Think of socially isolated individuals in the US, like those radicalized online, leading to violent acts. Jung stressed that to control the shadow, we must confront and integrate it. Instead of denying anger or desire, acknowledge them and channel them constructively. For example, someone envious of a friend's success could use that feeling as motivation to work harder, rather than sabotage others. If ignored, the shadow can erupt in destructive acts, from hurtful words to serious crimes, like workplace violence in the US. Understanding the shadow not only helps us control our inner evil but explains why evil is so alluring. The shadow is humanity's primal, powerful side, and unleashing it can feel liberating. But that freedom comes at a cost. It can turn us into demons. To see how evil manifests in society, let's turn to pop culture. Evil is a centerpiece of pop culture, both terrifying and seductive. Start with the Joker in The Dark Knight. He doesn't seek money or power. He wants to prove the world is inherently chaotic. His famous line, "All it takes is one bad day to reduce the sanest man to lunacy," shows his evil has a philosophy, destroying faith in order and morality. The Joker isn't just a villain. He's a philosopher of chaos, challenging us to ask, is US society, with its injustices and pressures, pushing people to the brink? Walter White in Breaking Bad is another example of a transformation from good to evil. Walt starts as an ordinary chemistry teacher, cooking drugs to protect his family after a cancer diagnosis. But pride and ambition turn him into Heisenberg, a ruthless killer protecting his empire. Walt's journey reflects a US reality. Financial pressure and the American dream sometimes lead to wrong choices. Walt shows that evil can start with justifiable reasons but ultimately consume its ideals. Light Yagami in Death Note offers another angle. With a notebook that kills by writing names, Light begins with a dream of a just world, punishing criminals, but absolute power turns him into a fanatic, willing to kill anyone in his way, even innocents. Light's evil is dangerous because it's justified by lofty ideals. In the US, think of extremist individuals or groups, like domestic terrorists, using violence in the name of truth. These characters show that evil is scarier when it has reasoning. A robber driven by greed is easier to handle than a killer driven by truth. Pop culture doesn't just exploit evil for shock. It asks, Are we so different from these villains? If you had Light Yagami's power, are you sure you'd resist temptation? These films and comics force us to look within, where our demon may lurk. In real life, evil often appears as criminal behavior, and psychology helps us understand why. Those with antisocial personality disorder, ASPD, are often described as demons in human form. They lack empathy, feel no guilt, and are often intelligent and charming. Consider Ted Bundy, a U.S. serial killer. Outwardly, Bundy was a charismatic law student, but inside, he was an emotionless killing machine. People like Bundy make us wonder, is evil part of human nature? But evil doesn't only come from the disturbed. Philip Zimbardo's Stanford prison experiment showed that ordinary people can become demons in the right conditions. In the experiment, students playing guards became brutal within days, abusing those playing prisoners. Zimbardo called this the Lucifer effect. Evil can arise from power and social pressure. Think of police brutality cases in the U.S., like George Floyd's in 2020, where power led to cruelty. These studies show that evil doesn't require a sick mind. Sometimes, a wrong environment, social pressure, power, or desperation is enough to turn a good person evil. This leads to a chilling question. Is a demon lurking in each of us? Let's face it, everyone has a demon inside. The Milgram experiment proved this. Volunteers were asked to deliver electric shocks to others, actually fake, and most complied, despite knowing it caused pain. This shows ordinary people can do evil just by following orders. In the US, think of employees following unjust corporate policies, like discrimination, because it's the rule. As discussed, Carl Jung called this dark side the shadow. To control it, we must acknowledge and integrate it, not deny it. For example, instead of suppressing anger from unfair treatment, express it healthily through dialogue or writing. In the high-pressure, competitive U.S. society, ignoring the shadow can lead to destructive acts, like workplace violence. The moral question is, if you had absolute power, like Light Yagami with the Death Note, what would you do? Could you resist evil's temptation? Recognizing the demon within isn't about self-blame but a reminder that we can control it, if we dare to face it. Evil isn't just absolute darkness. It has depth, reasoning, and sometimes a deadly allure. From classical philosophy to modern psychology, we see that evil isn't just actions but part of humanity, society, and ourselves. Understanding evil isn't about justifying it but staying vigilant and controlling it. When you face the demon in your soul, what will you do? Run or confront it? Let this question linger, and we'll continue exploring the human psyche in future episodes. Thank you for listening.